Back, finding a doctor can be tough, especially one that speaks your language.
It's an issue for many Latino and Hispanic communities, including Omaha. One local medical clinic hopes to change that.
Our 6 News' Johan Marin tells us they're making sure everyone is getting the care they need without the language barrier.
Meet Dr. Priscilla Correa, a physician and one of the founders of South Omaha Medical Associates. Operating since 1991, it's one of the longest established bilingual clinics in Omaha.
We thought there was a lot of need for us. We were one of the first ones that we came here to Omaha to speak Spanish. There was nobody else.
Throughout the years, as an Ecuadorian physician, Dr. Correa has immersed herself in the local culture of Spanish-speaking Latinos to understand their unique healthcare needs and struggles.
Meeting different doctors from different countries that speak Spanish, and that's the way that we try to refer patients who speak Spanish.
A roadblock they've overcome is the language barrier. They've started to increase the number of Latino Spanish-speaking physicians they have on staff. Christian Correa, the vice president of SOMA, told 6 News they're actively recruiting bilingual medical students from Creighton and St. Mary's.
So much of that is just literally being available and being able to speak the language, but it's been challenging to even find providers that are multilingual.
Dr. Correa hopes more young Latinos develop an interest in becoming doctors. According to a study conducted by Pew Research Center, Latinos account for 7% of the overall physician and surgeon workforce in the country. It's hoped that more Latinos and Spanish-speaking physicians can help attack conditions like obesity, asthma, diabetes, and mental health issues like depression that impact this community at a higher rate than other ethnicities.
And we try to connect with each other on the back end to make sure that we can provide those services for our patients.
We are here to help them as much as we can.
On your side, Johan Marin, 6 News.
South Omaha Medical Associates is looking to also expand their clinic in West Omaha to reach more of the Latino Hispanic community.
And over